You know, I want to ask an author. You've mentioned a few things that's really happened in your life. So when you write a book, do you have these things already churning, things that have happened that you think you can build a story around? Or do you just start with the story and then build from your life?
That's a good question. I don't think it's enough to build a book on just a couple of anecdotes of your own life. You're probably going to head for trouble there because anecdotes do not make a book. It's more like a feeling that you have from your own life that sets you in motion on a book. And in this case, well, in the 5 People You Meet in Heaven, for example, I had this uncle who used to tell me all the time that he was a nobody and a nothing, and I always regretted not being able to talk him out of that, and I tried to sort of create a world where a guy like that would find out that his life did matter, and that led to heaven, and that led to things. And then I ended up working some anecdotes into the book, but the big picture thing was, how do you get a person who thinks his life doesn't matter to find out that it does? In this case, it was kind of a thought about my own mother and the day that's going to come when I can't pick up the phone and call her. It's an integral part of my life, just regular things, you know, even if they're nothing conversations. It's just like she's always there. And I thought, what's it going to be like when she's not there? And is there any question I haven't asked yet? And what if I don't get a chance to ask her? What if all of a sudden today I woke up and she was gone, as happened to her? Her father died when she was 15 of my mother of a heart attack, and she had gone in to see him the night before, kissed him goodnight. He gave her these 2 words from the dictionary. Every night he gave her 2 words from the dictionary. She had to memorize and come back the next day with a sentence. He gave her these 2 words. And the next morning before she got up, he left and went up to this bungalow or something, and he had a heart attack, fell over and died. And she never saw him again. And she still has those 2 words that she's been waiting to use in a sentence her whole life, you know.
Wow.
Detrimental and inculcate. And I say to my mother, you were 15, you were learning inculcate? I had to go look up what inculcate meant. But it's amazing, she can still remember it 60 years later. She remembers those 2 words, and she never got that chance. And of course, we're all that one day away from happening to us. So that was the idea. That was this thing about, you know, what if you get that day back or whatever? And then as the story started to unfold, oh, a mummy, that was interesting. There was a story about the library. I don't know if you remember that, where that's an absolutely dead-on true story, right down to the name of the book, where I was 7, 8 years old, and I was in the library, and I was dressed like a little floppy kid, but I loved to read, and I found this book, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and it had some submarine cover on it or something, so I wanted to take it out, and I brought it up to the counter, and the librarian took one look at me, and she said, well, this is too hard. You know, you can't read this. Go over there with the kids section, and so you do what you're told. So I went over when the kids section. I took out a Curious George book, and when I got back in the car, my mother pulled up in front of the library. She used to drop me there every Saturday morning, and I got in the car with my Curious George book. She said, "You've read that 10 times already." I said, "Yeah, but the librarian wouldn't let me take out the book that I wanted." And she said, "Why not?" And I said, "It was too hard." You know, the car is just like that. I mean, I don't even think she shut the engine off. And she marched me into that library and started yelling at that librarian. I've never seen my mother yell before. And she just let her have it. She said, "Don't ever tell a child something's too hard, you know? Like, it's the worst thing you can tell a kid." And she just took the book, and I don't even think we checked it out. I think we just ran out of there. And I remember thinking, wow, Mom, you know, like I was looking up at her like, oh, this is great. We just robbed the bank. And I thought, in retrospect, that that's a wonderful thing for a mother to do for a kid. And again, you know, in the book, he doesn't really get it. You know, he doesn't really appreciate it. But you probably do, or readers do, you know, or adults do. And so that's another example, just at how it occurred to me after I started writing it, this would be a good story to use in the book. So.
Did your mom enjoy reading those little anecdotes?
My mom read the book, and of course, like all mothers, she calls you up and she says, I love the dedication at the end. It doesn't matter what. The story, plot, all that stuff is secondary. Just as long as you put her name in it at the end. Yeah, she saw the pictures at the end. That was her favorite part, you know. Okay. All the rest of it, yeah, she liked. But, you know, the fact that her name was there at the end and you dedicated a book to her, and now she's happy.